Hey, Wealth Warriors, are you ready to redefine wealth and master your money mindset? Welcome to Women of Wealth. I'm your Gen X host, Holly Woods Gray.
And I'm your millennial host, Ali Ramo.
Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Carrie Friedberg, bringing us insight on money and psychology and how to talk about money with your partner.
Carrie's path wasn't always linear in financial wellness, the wellness space, but has ended up consulting for several well-known tech companies like Visa, Google, and WeWork in the Bay Area, where she now calls home.
So, to start off, Carrie, first of all, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got where you are today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Well, I started the financial wellness journey as a client myself. I was about 30 years old and basically a financial mess. I was crying every time I had to talk about money with roommates or romantic partners and friends. I would just break down, or literally my hearing would go out. I also had credit card debt. I was withdrawing from my measly teacher's retirement account to pay bills and fund a moving habit. And I just had never gotten financially literate or learned the basics. I ended up trying many different things, but ultimately hired a financial coach and working with this person consistently over the course of 2 years. Not that it has to take that long for other people, but that was my process. My entire life transformed inside and out. And I had a background in education. And so I decided to do the same counselor training program that my own coach had done. So for me, instead of teaching kindergarteners, now I was teaching adults about personal finance. And that was back in 2010 that I launched my private practice.
Well, we know a little bit about educators and not feeling like they've got a lot of resources for financial wellness. Holly and I specialize with public school employee retirement plans. So we go into schools and talk about their pensions and retirement and all that. So it's really fascinating. We know exactly like how you feel, and we help people all the time with that. Tell us a bit about the journey of so you became a finance coach, but you've had a few other things along the way. You've been yoga certified. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do think that getting into yoga, I'm from Michigan, but I was living in San Francisco. I was an assistant teacher at the time, and my mentor teacher was really into Bikram yoga, that hot, sweaty yoga. And I thought I would try it, and I got really into that for like a year. And my posture changed, literally how I was walking in the world. And I also gained some sense of spiritual fitness and well-being, and it really had positive ripple effects in every other area of my life. And I think it was there on the yoga mat that I had the insight that there had to be a better way to deal with money as an adult. I knew deep down that I had to face the final frontier, which for me was personal finance. I had so much stress and anxiety, and like I mentioned, huge emotions around money, all day, every day, just this kind of ball of anxiety in my belly. By that point, I had already graduated from college and gone to graduate school for education and become certified as a yoga instructor. And so I was clearly into being a student, right? Just show me how, teach me how. I needed an education on personal finance. And that's why I started reading books and series of books, attending webinars. I hired someone off of Craigslist to teach me Quicken. I designed my own tracking software, and then ultimately hired a financial coach who helped me address both the emotional side of things as well as the practical.
Fascinating. Yeah, working with teachers, it's definitely been an interesting journey for me because I had no idea that, both of my best friends are teachers. So I did know a little bit about how they may or may not have a relationship with their pension and their retirement and whatnot. So I think it's very interesting. And also, we have a bunch of educators who are working with us in the insurance and financial services side, and they are very successful. So it works very much hand in hand with, education and being educated for your personal finance. Now, you just started talking about the tech that you created. Is that what got you into working with some of these tech companies that you mentioned above, or what really sets you apart when you work with these corporate financial wellness spaces?
Well, no, I didn't ultimately develop tech that other people were interested in. What I offered to them, some white label tech companies that were fintech, financial technology apps and programs. I consulted with them in what would work, what would be sustainable for people, things that I definitely would do, would not do, just different lessons and distinctions that were really important for people to get and experience in order for financial health to last for the long term.
So, Carrie, it looks like you have consulted for some major tech companies, as we mentioned in your intro. What do you think sets you apart in the corporate financial wellness space?
Well, I think my background in education as a kindergarten teacher is very attractive to people because they think I am a safe person to ask questions to and to not know the answers about their financial life or even know what their questions are. I've had many clients literally say the words, please talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old, because they have never learned what it means to be an adult or what financial health and wellness means and looks like. They don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And so, for example, this past summer, I led a financial wellness workshop at Airbnb, and it was for their current cohort of interns around the country. So most of those people were millennials, they were 20 somethings, many of them were single. And what I reviewed with them were the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of personal finance, what the best practices are, insights, advice, lessons I've learned, mistakes that they can avoid if they take my suggestions, and also routines they need to be practicing on a daily or weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis, so that they know they're taking excellent care of their money. And I always like to emphasize to groups like that, that not everyone needs a money coach, but I strongly believe that everybody needs at least one person, a financial confidant that they can talk to, that they can share with, and really open up about the whole truth about how much they're earning or debt that they're carrying or student loans or family conflict, real savings goals, lifestyle dreams, all of it. And hopefully this person can offer support around tackling day-to-day problems and challenges, curveballs that adult life will throw at us, and also that they can gain inspiration from this partner. So I think that's one of the greatest assets that people can create agreements and manifest for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's really important because I think, your everyday people can find financial professionals intimidating, throwing different terms around, and you're not really quite understanding, but you're wanting to ask questions. So I think it's really unique and cool that you've got the kindergarten teacher perspective and the emotional capacity for people in a soft way. Um, I mean, you talk about, being emotionally nurturing basically for your clients.
Mhm.
How did, mental health and financial well-being, how are they interconnected through, I mean, your different yoga teachings and just your experience overall? How has mental health and financial well-being been connected in your experience?
So for me, I had gotten into yoga, like I said, and what came along with that was a meditation practice. So at first, I got into Vipassana meditation, originally initiated by a 10-day silent retreat, which was very intense, hardest thing I've ever done besides giving birth. And but I learned a lot about the monkey mind, and the way that my resistance showed up, by the way, was I was falling asleep. I mean, I was just constantly nodding off and trying to avoid the experience. So it was I got really intimate with myself. And when I'm speaking with clients or presenting workshops, I just try to be as present as possible. So whether that's through setting an intention or, really clearing my calendar and not rushing into things, having a long buffer before and after so that I can really just be there and connect with people, see them, allow them to see me, and bring some of those meditative practices into my offerings. And I know that money is very emotional. I mean, for example, if the three of us pulled up our banking apps right now and shared how much was in our checking accounts, that would be like, even telling myself that possibility, I can feel my heart racing. It's like money is confronting. And so we tend to want to keep it private, but there's something transformative and healing that happens when we have a witness, and especially somebody that we like, trust, and respect. And so I think that when people practice mental health in whatever form or fashion that is, it could be rigorous exercise for an hour a day. It could be gardening. It could be prayer. Everyone has to find their own way with the energy in the universe. But I think the more time we spend there, the more gratitude we can feel, and the more in alignment with our money we can be, because that at the end of the day, it's really what it's about, is being honest and facing the facts around our money.
I think it's really important to talk about how habits, like if you have a practice of working out or yoga, or like you said, working out an hour a day, or doing gardening a certain amount of time each day or each week, how those habits for one area of your life will translate over to the other areas of your life too. I've had people that have been on my team. I've been with Appreciation Financial for over 14 years now. I've had people on my team who've gone on weight loss journeys, or they just started a new exercise routine, or they got really into a certain type of sport or something like that, and how that discipline in the sport kind of translates into their business as well. Some of the people on my team have made the most money when they've been, practicing healthier habits or eliminating unhealthy habits in their life. There's a lot of research on that as well. So I think it's really interesting how getting quiet with yourself or getting honest with yourself about your money or your fitness or your weight or the scale or whatever the case might be, how that does translate to other areas of our lives. I think it's interesting.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too that there's a lot of misconceptions about individuals and about money management. So can you talk a little bit about the misconceptions that you find when you're working with individuals?
Yes. So usually by the time someone is paying a money coach, it's really like a last straw location, right? Because most people who hire a coach, well, some people just want the tune up and to make sure they've got those best practices nailed down. But a lot of people are facing stress or big decisions or transitions, whether it's getting married and coupling up, or really deciding that they're going to get off the credit card debt cycle, or they've received an inheritance. I mean, there are all kinds of problems and challenges that can happen from these rites of passage. And people are a bit embarrassed by the time they come into my office or we meet online, and they think they should have it all figured out by now at whatever age. I mean, I've had people in their 70s hire me for the first time because they've never had that conversation with someone, or their husband had always managed the money their whole lives and they're now widows, or there are just so many amazing stories out there about people coming to address this area. But I want to say that you don't need to have an accounting or business degree to master personal finance. I just wrote a book and it's coming out in a few weeks. And the real headline for that is that my approach to holistic personal finance is proof that you only need to know 5th grade math to master personal finance. And that's really that really resonates with people. And they're like, phew, but my brother, but my dad, but my mom, but my husband. And everyone knows these people that were kind of born with a money gene. I wasn't. I was like the people you were describing. I had to train and practice and ask for help, and train and practice and ask for more help, like over and over again, to develop the muscles, the willingness, the strength to continue facing what had previously been a difficult area for me. Another misconception is that if you start budgeting, you'll never have fun again. And that's very common. I like to tell people that this is not about cutting and slashing your lifestyle. It's really about creating a balance and knowing that you're taking care of your past self if you have debt or regrets or a kind of ball and chain of obligations from the past, as well as your future self, and being smart and planning ahead and taking care of yourself 5, 10, and 20, 30 years down the road, as well as living a fulfilling, healthy current lifestyle. So that's a lot to address. And sure, something may have to give, but it's not about locking yourself up and never going out again, or what. It's about giving money to all of these parts of yourself so that you can feel whole in this area. And then there are people that have been so burned by financial trauma or the long collection and series of devastating mistakes and, 6-figure back taxes and all kinds of things. And they feel like it'll never work. Like they come in and they're like, and this isn't going to work either. There are people who arrive in money coaching sessions or turn up to a financial wellness workshop and they feel like they're at their wits' end and they've really run out of hope. And I think as advisors and coaches, part of our job is to show them that there's at least a pinhole of light and that there's always hope and possibility. And that in community, in relationship, perhaps it's with a paid advisor, but maybe it's this financial confidant I've mentioned a few times, you can learn and grow and change, and that the uncomfortable feelings are not that anything bad or wrong is happening. It's just that there's growth. So yeah, those are some misconceptions.
When you were talking about people avoiding facing their money issues, it reminded me of like, I can't remember the quote exactly, but in fitness, losing weight is hard, but being heavy or overweight is also hard. So choose your hard. And that kind of goes
Yes.
for money too. Being in debt is hard, and budgeting or, being aware of how you spend your money, it can be hard, but pick your hard. So I found that interesting. I wanted to shift gears a little bit. You had briefly mentioned working with couples, and a lot of our listeners have partners as well. And so we wanted to talk about what are some common challenges that you see couples face, and how can they overcome them?
One common difficulty that couples face are having very different family histories. So most people couple up maybe as teenagers at the earliest or in their 20s, and of course later in life as well. But for example, I have clients who are married and one person grew up with gifts for every occasion, like 3-month anniversaries and 6-month anniversary, like that type of thing. And every Valentine's Day and every, and her partner grew up quite poor in another country, really struggling with a lot of chaos and fighting around money. And there was a point in time where a bank that the partner's family owned got robbed and the family lost everything. So there's some financial trauma there. And the two of them got married. They were happily in love, but as kind of reality set in and they wanted to move and start a family and all of these even more expensive, bigger ticket items and major rites of passage, they started fighting a lot. And so, because the truth is, whether we're actively touching money, these days, spending happens so passively, right? Like at Whole Foods, you can pay with your palm, I guess, and other things. But money is intertwined in day-to-day decisions. I think we all know that. And so it really does take something to pay attention and have that money consciousness, because it's just, there's a big outflow or big frequency of outflow. And then every once in a while we get paid, right? Unless we're day workers. And so I helped them remember why they fell in love, how they fell in love, what that was like, what those feelings were like, what those experiences were like. And fortunately for this couple, they had 3 critical characteristics of a successful relationship. And this is something I learned from a Buddhist teacher who used to go by Kali Ma. And one of them is shared or same core values, right? And those were around the days and years of their romantic meeting and falling in love and everything else. Regardless of how they grew up, they still had those things. Also, the second one is a shared vision for their lives and lifestyle. And then critically, the third characteristic is a shared desire for personal growth. So as many people know, years into marriage, as kind of the honeymoon phase concludes and the dust from maybe celebrating and honeymooning or making babies or whatever kind of settles, that's where the work is. And people always said, like, marriage will be a lot of work, but I had no idea what that really meant until I was in it myself. And there are some couples where one person's very open around coaching or therapy or talking to someone at their church, and other people are quite closed to that and not available, or they no-show or cancel those appointments. And so, but fortunately, this couple I was sharing about, they did have that shared desire for personal growth. So with those qualities, I knew that it was going to work out. And they had a lot of things to sift through. They needed to realign. And so I gave them a tool you can download for free on my website called the Financial Partnership Questions. And it's almost 3 pages of what I think are critical and essential questions for every phase of the relationship, like getting to know you, and then maybe moving in and committing and potentially starting a family if that's your choice. And if you can't sort through those questions with your partner, say at your kitchen table or on your couch, because it's too fraught with emotion or disagreement, then that's a clear and obvious sign that you need help from a third party or a mutual mentor or that financial confidant, someone. And even if you need to pay for some number of therapy sessions or coaching or advisors, you can get help with that, so that everyone can be seen and heard.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback or great advice, because there is definitely times, I mean, I've been married for almost 18 years. So there's been times where, we had no arguments about money because we didn't need to. And then early on in our relationship, when we didn't have any money, things were definitely different. So we never really fought about money, but we just never really talked that much about it until my husband and I got into the same business together. Then we started talking about money more, obviously, because that's our business. So I think that being in this business also helps you see the potholes or whatever, and helps you avoid those things as well. But what would you say, how important would you say it is for couples to align their financial goals? And you talked a little bit about getting on the same page, but it looks like there's some essential steps that they can do to make sure that their goals line up.
Yes. So I think it is essential to align their financial goals. It doesn't mean that you can't have your individual goals as part of the family vision, right? Like, I may want to start a business or write a book or have my own endeavors, and there's space for that. But my partner needs to know and be supportive on some level, right? And I want to hear their needs and wants as well as their desires. And it's all going to come out of the money collective, right? Whether you go joint or partially joint or keep things completely separate, there's a limit to the grand total cash available in your relationship. And it's really, really powerful to be intentional with that money and to give your money purpose. So again, leveraging that you fell in love once and that you're committed to each other in one way or another. I have learned over the years that there's a lot of compromise involved, and you might need to take turns. For example, I had my coaching practice for 15 years. I loved the flexible schedule. My kids are 7 and 11 now. I was able to do that and ramp up and ramp down, but working the whole time. And then my husband got laid off from his full-time job, and we had always had health insurance through him. Well, it's my turn. So I'm back to work full time, back in education, actually, at the neighborhood private school. And I talk about all of this in my book. But what I've learned in the end is that marriage or a long-term committed relationship is really a giving contest. And we need to tune in on those bigger dreams and visions, at least once a year, if not quarterly. How are we doing? How can I love you better? What things are happening? Let's look at our financial plan and see how on track or off track we are and what adjustments we need to make. So it's a living document, and it's a very fluid process.
I really like that you say, it's a giving contest, because it's so easy to get caught up in what am I getting out of this? How am I feeling? You made me feel X, and so I think it's really important, especially when you're in a long-term committed relationship, that it is about we or you, or, it's a partnership. What are some specific strategies that couples can utilize to identify shared values when it comes to spending, saving, and investing?
Okay, great. Yes, I love this question. So I also offer a values clarification exercise in my book that I learned from one of my incredible mentors, Barbara Hewson. And she's written like 7 or 8 personal finance books. I think they're all amazing. I've read all of them, with very catchy titles like Overcoming Under Earning, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, Secrets from Six-Figure Women, all of these things where I was like, yes, 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 I need that. So some of the spending values can be defined, clarified, shared through the financial partnership questions. For example, what should the maximum be that we are both free to spend without checking in with the other one? Like, people have different tolerances for that. One person in the couple might say, oh, anything over 300, I want you to talk to me. And the other person might feel, oh, anything over 1,000. I mean, that's a huge difference. And that can cause a lot of conflict and fighting. And so my approach and all of my suggestions are very much about preventative medicine, proactive steps. What can we do ahead of time to prevent fights and breakdowns, especially the really significant, painful ones? For saving, I suggest a 3-level approach. So I personally think that every couple needs 3 savings goals and definitely 3 designated accounts, one for periodics, those anticipated non-monthly expenses like taxes or insurance, summer camp for the kids, holidays, things like that. One for a safety net, that's really an income holding backup account. I'd say 6 months of living expenses set aside in cash. And then 1 or more accounts also specifically for retirement and long-term savings. And so you can calculate the goals for each of these different accounts. The ones for retirement can get pretty complex, as I imagine both of you know very well, and I would need to go to someone like you to help me with this. Considering factors like location, inflation, life expectancy, current age, desired retirement age, and of course, your goals and envisioned lifestyle for that phase. There's a lot, that's a lot to figure out at the kitchen table, right? When everyone's tired and working and like you have other household projects to attend to. So there's something that happens when you invest in professional help, specifically a certified financial planner. I do like my clients to work with fiduciaries and fee-only financial planners. But either way, if it's a registered investment advisor, these people have studied and passed exams to help you run various scenarios to leverage yearly check-ins with them and tune-ups and to help you stay on track and can help you make big decisions that will move the needle, as it were, 5, 10, 20 years out. So I would never attempt something like that by myself.
Yeah, I mean, even myself and my husband's a financial advisor. I have my insurance license, and
Yeah.
we have additional financial advisors that help us with different types of investments. So, having a team, if you need a team, having a team, but at least having one person to talk to about it is great. I also find that when my husband and I are out of our routine, like when we're traveling, just the two of us without our child, well, we have children, but one of them's out of the house already. So without our kiddo,
Yes.
we can have some of the best conversations about this kind of stuff because we're relaxed, we're out of our environment, we're not worried about every day, getting to school, pick up, basketball practice, football, whatever the case might be, and we have a little bit more time to breathe. So I think I think it's very healthy for couples to take that time. I mean, even if it's just a staycation, where you have a couple hours where you make it a date night where you're not in your home talking about it, you can be out somewhere.
Yes.
It's less likely to fight if you're out in public. So that's another
Yes.
tip. That's another tip that I give some of my clients. Like if you're really nervous about it, and here's why, because it's easy for you to go out to dinner or whatever. Well, we have a lightning round. It's been so educational. We have a lightning round, but before we get to the lightning round, you have mentioned your book coming out, and it looks like you have a lot of success stories on your website. Can you give our listeners that information, and we'll jump into the lightning round?
Of course. Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, my book is called At Peace with Money, a holistic roadmap to financial wellness. And I'm super excited about it. I'm very proud of it. It's currently available for pre-sale on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And the official release date is January 20th, 2026. And let me know. Yes, that's happening. And then my website is SF as in San Francisco, sfmoneycoach.com. And there are lots of tools and information and stories and other good things, my online course, etc., available there.
Great. And is that the best way to get a hold of you as well?
Yes, there's a contact form there, or you can email me directly, Carrie, Carrie, at sfmoneycoach.com. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, let's get this money round started. Or lightning round.
Lightning round. Give me a money round.
Lightning round started. And so we'll just, they're quick answers, either a couple words or short sentence. What's one word to describe your leadership style?
I'd say relatable, honest, and direct. I don't overshare, but I like to color workshops and sessions with clients with some personal and funny stories.
Awesome. What's your go-to productivity hack?
I'm so glad that a long time ago I set up a separate email account for online shopping and signing up for things and buying things. That's really helped protect my active email accounts from the mountain of junk mail that inevitably comes seemingly for the rest of our lives from online transactions. So separating church and state.
Coffee or tea?
I drink both, but there's nothing like a well-steeped black tea with warm, frothy milk and honey. I love that.
Sounds cozy, perfect for winter. favorite business book or podcast you recommend?
So Amy Poehler, the actor and comedian, has this podcast called Good Hang, and it's hysterical. I listen to it during downtime at work or on walks in the car. It literally makes me laugh out loud, and I'm just really into anything with humor and that makes me laugh. I'm so grateful.
Awesome. And we kind of already went over this, but one money myth you wish would go away forever.
This wish and kind of distorted thinking that many people have, that I definitely used to have, which is that someone will rescue me, whether it was my own father. I'm really glad I got over that and transformed that myth. But then I thought that various long-term boyfriends were going to rescue me, or they'll take care of me, or this and that. No, none of those relationships worked out. It wasn't until I got right with my money and started really standing on my own 2 feet and being self-supporting and even high earning that it was in that phase of my relationship with money that I met my eventual husband. So if you succumb to that external locus of control where you think something outside of you is going to save or rescue you, that might be something to look at through meditation or with a therapist, and start to develop an internal locus of control.
It sounds like you do a little bit of therapy.
Mhm.
If you could sit down and have lunch with any woman of wealth, past or present, who would it be?
I would say Michelle Obama. She's definitely one of my heroes. I think she's so amazing, and she's very spiritual, and she's so beautiful and just exudes grace. I so admire her and her husband. I remember listening to an interview with her about raising 2 young girls in the White House, and she shared how they leaned on a therapist a lot during those years. And I remember thinking, if that power couple needs a therapist, then I need to find one for my husband and I immediately. It was kind of this aha moment, like, oh, the most accomplished, amazing people in the world often have these vast support systems that we don't see or know or hear about.
Yes, I definitely agree. I mean, in any part of your life, if you want to grow from it, learn from someone who went through that struggle and can help you through it a little bit quicker.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carrie, for being a part of our show.
Yes, and
Thank
then
you both. This was really fun.